Grier is in the house. Look at that.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Let's see here. I think I've got the wrong thing up here. Let me get this set up for you. Anyway, so I'm really excited to have you in here today, Grier. I know I've been trying to work closer and closer with you guys since we rolled out 2 years ago. And anyway, it's just been fun to have an opportunity to work with your team closer over the last several months. And I'm excited about some of the things we have coming up to announce. I don't know if we're going to announce some of that today or what.
I don't see why not. No, I mean, it's been great working with your team directly as well, Brian. And it's, we're super excited about what this deep integration can mean for our mutual customers.
So for those of you who don't know, we'll share with you now that Sisu and BoomTown have done a direct integration. It's in testing. We have 3 to 5 customers getting up on it this week, but it'll really just simplify and eliminate any costs associated with an integration. It will also just simplify and make the data more accurate that you're pulling in. So rather than everything being based off syncing with an email, it's actually based off of the client ID. And so anyway, we're super excited about it. I know we've had several team members focused on that for the last month and a half, something like that. And super excited to get customers going on that here in the coming weeks.
No, what's exciting is just the two-way synchronization as well. I think, Brian, is something to point out there is the fact that, when you update things within your Sisu platform, that synchronizes back to BoomTown and vice versa. And the teams are really doing a fantastic job of creating just really a one-of-a-kind integration with Sisu. And I'm just really excited for people to be able to experience that.
Yeah, we are as well. And I think that's been something that we've seen team owners complain about over the last few years is I just can't get my agents to go back in and put it into the CRM, when something goes under contract or closes. Well, that'll automatically be done for you now. So anyway, we're excited about that. And just really automating the business and eliminating the duplicate data entry is a huge focus of ours. And together, we are just doing a far better job of that now. So anyway, excited to work with you guys on it, Grier.
Likewise, man.
So let's move into proactive planning, predictable results. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Brian, ever since this pandemic came upon us back in February and March, we've always been very led by data and really analyzing things, and really the purpose has always been behind our mission, and our mission is to make real estate agents successful. It's a very simple mission, but it really guides us in every single decision that we make. And I would say that there's a lot that we've been looking at, and right now we're just really believing in the fact that the latter half of this year was pretty amazing in terms of what we saw in terms of market activity, but we have reason to believe that 2021 is going to be even stronger, and it's something that we all need to prepare for over the next quarter. And just a few stats that we have some insight into, Brian, is just around this pent up demand. Number one, that is being released into the market, post the lockdown earlier on this year, and that's still playing out. Typically we're seeing a little bit of a dip in activity, come September, but October and November are typically down at about 10%. In terms of transaction volume, but we're not seeing the same thing this year. I mean, the seasonality is not as dramatic, going into the fall season as it has been in previous years. In fact, if we're looking at year-over-year data, from our platform, traffic on our consumer websites, for our clients' consumer websites, is up 22% year-over-year in September. Leads are up 24% year over year. The cost per lead is down almost 20%, 19.9% in September. So those people that are spending and investing in their growth, and the ones that have been since this pandemic began, are really reaping the rewards of being able to get in there and having a less competitive auction in Google and Facebook, because people are pulling out due to the uncertainty, and therefore getting just loading up with the top of the funnel and producing way more leads at 20% lower cost. So we've got, pendings are up 15% over the last 2 weeks compared to the previous year. So all signs are pointing to a pretty busy fall and winter season that we're about to embark on here, even with, I think, the election coming up.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us. Those are some interesting stats. So how do we prepare, or how do team owners prepare to take advantage of that?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's the next few months are pretty critical, and one of the stats that I found was that Lawrence Yun, who's the head, the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, is predicting that in 2020 we're actually going to be up in terms of transaction size year over year from 2019 by about a point, 1.1%. To put that into perspective, and knowing how busy everybody has been, he's also predicting that next year in 2021 we're going to be up 8 to 12% over 2020. Which you put that into perspective, and you're as you kind of look towards 2021, guys. I mean, it's all about getting to a point where just sustaining the same market share that you have this year. You're going to be doing 8 to 12% more volume than you did the year before. But I know that everybody that's listening here is not just about sustaining the status quo year over year. They're looking to take market share away. And so you're going to be working off of a base of 8 to 12% growth year over year. On top of that, you're going to add on what you're going to do in terms of taking market share away from your competition. And so, I think that there's a lot that you need to focus on here to make sure that your team is prepared and you've got the right leverage in place and you've got the right tools and systems in place to make yourself successful in a very busy year ahead of us.
The thing that I hear over and over and over again, and I've seen, Grier, is that in times like this, those who take the market share keep the market share. So
that's right.
COVID is a great example of that. If you took it as snow days and we're just going to hang out and watch Netflix all day, you lost market share. But if you took your team and said, we are going to meet every day at 8 a.m. and we're going to report our numbers out, we're going to get ready for the day, even if we're in our homes, we're going to still do that. We have Zoom. Then you took market share and you've seen that growth. So going into next year, Grier, what can team owners do to just make sure that they're on top of that? I mean, do they need to spend more dollars on marketing? Is now the time to be doing that? What things can they do to make sure they increase that lead flow, increase their market share, so that they can maintain that market share when the market does dip ultimately?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, with the stats I just shared, your September this year at nearly 20%, discount on the cost per lead, knowing that you're going into a year where there's going to be an 8 to 12% increase in transaction volume. Now is the time to invest, and now is the time to kind of push on the pedal, and that's what's going to enable you to take that market share away. Some of the other very important things that I think are worth mentioning here is that the consumer experience is vital. I think a lot of people, we're sort of debating this. Have we just lost to the big portals? Zillow, Realtor.com. Have we just lost the game completely to them. And I think when you're seeing a lot of the business model changes with Zillow and Realtor.com coming into effect, it's not necessarily, I don't see it as an attack on real estate agents necessarily. I just see it as their North Star is the consumer, and they're trying to provide the best consumer experience. And that's the game that they're playing. And I think that, knowing that and knowing that their North Star is the consumer, you've got to do the same thing in your business. And that's why we've invested pretty heavily over the last, several years to introduce a consumer mobile app for our customers to be able to introduce to their customers. And we're already seeing that the engagement on that app, in terms of time spent and listings clicked, showing inquiries submitted, is nearly double that of what the websites produce. And so the one important takeaway here is focus on your consumer experience. It's no longer an option or a nice to have your own digital experience. You have to have your own digital experience. And on top of that, you've got to be able to fill that funnel, like you were saying, Brian. I mean, that's a critical piece, but also leveraging your database, continuing to engage your database is going to be absolutely critical as well. So being able to have that consumer experience that offers those virtual tools to aid their search, in a time where, like you were saying, in California, a lot of teams can't even get together at this point in time, and they certainly can't go out and show properties in a lot of areas. And so having those virtual showing options available on your consumer website are going to be critical. But also, having the tools to automate touch points with your consumers. And this is really where your database comes into play. Being able to, send out personalized marketing automation that really works and is proven. We have listing alerts or e-alerts that send out new properties and price reduction listings that account for still 75% of our repeat traffic back to our customers' websites. And that's literally tens of millions of sessions over the course of this year alone. We also have Marketing Central, where our clients can go in and launch retargeting campaigns that are specifically optimized to keep their brand front and center in front of the consumers that they have in their database. So these are tools that are.
Did you just roll that out last year?
That was just this past year, and so this thing has been continuing.
Tell us more about that, because I think a lot of people don't realize you actually do that.
Absolutely. No, thank you. So so really what Marketing Central is designed for is two separate things. So number one, it's dynamically retargeting your database, and because this system is intrinsically tied together, we're able to understand and get knowledge about who's a likely who's kind of scoring these leads and basically putting these advertisements out in front of consumers that are more likely to want to click through those, or more likely to transact in the near future. And so it optimizes your advertising spend, and most of that is done on Facebook and Instagram, Brian. And another aspect of this is that you can advertise your listings. And so when you get a new listing or have a price reduction, have an open house that you want to promote, all those different parts of the listing journey are covered within Marketing Central as well. And this is just a self-serve application directly within BoomTown. It's not an upsell necessarily. I mean, you're basically just paying for the ad spend that you're doing for these particular campaigns. And it's just a self-service way that a lot of our customers are leveraging to keep in front of their customers and put their listings out in front of their prospective buyers.
Okay, interesting. Having a wife that uses BoomTown, I don't know that she's actually utilizing that, so we need to get that going.
No, it's a great tool. It's a great tool, and it's additive, right? And like I said, I mean, listing alerts are tried and true, contributing 75% of the repeat traffic. But as a result of adding Marketing Central to the mix, we're seeing a lot of repeat traffic, just a lot of growth in the repeat traffic that's coming from those social channels that are engaged through Marketing Central.
That's great. All right. So I love that you say focused on the consumer experience. And everything I've read about the new Zillow brokerage, and the interviews I've listened to, they've all that's been 100% of their focus is better consumer experience. Maybe not having to rely on agents who are not going to effectively convert those leads. And so, question is, can they bring people in-house that will effectively convert those leads? Who knows? But in the meantime, what our customers as agents and team owners should be focused on is improving that client experience, which I know you guys are focused on that. I know we're focused on that. And I really believe that is the future.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and you made a good point there, Brian, in terms of, you've got to bridge the gap between the digital experience and the personalized experience of having conversations. That's a critical handoff, right? I mean, you're building trust if you're providing a great consumer experience on the digital side, but you really have to convert those digital consumers into real conversations and personalized conversations. And at a time like this year, I mean, it's all about building trust and being the knowledge broker, which Tom Ferry talks a lot about, and also our friends at KCM, Keeping Current Matters, talk a lot about, is just being that knowledge broker and helping them to understand the market. And a lot of this is just kind of working them through the funnel and understanding where to spend your time and energy. And you said, can you hire those people internally to help your agents? Because agents need leverage, especially going into a year where it's going to be 8 to 12 times busier than they were this past year. They need leverage, and you can go out and hire ISAs. But another service that we've invested heavily into over this past couple of years, Brian, is what we call success assurance. And that's where we're nurturing leads on behalf of our customers. And this is not through a bot. This is not through AI. This is through real US-based people across the US that are engaging leads. And their goal is to engage the lead, to understand where they are in their process, to use open-ended questions that, a lot of the technology can't handle right now, but using open-ended questions to really get to the meat of what is their motivation for moving, and really being able to pass off, a pretty descriptive explanation to the agent when that consumer is agent ready, as we call it, and presenting that to the agent in a way that sets them up for success in that next conversation. And so there's a lot of ways to do it, but part of 2021 and being successful is about giving your agents leverage.
So with success assurance, rather than giving your agents hundreds of leads that they'll never be able to follow up on, it's giving them better leads so that when they do get those leads, they can deliver and get them to contract. I wanted to ask you about PPC, because I know you guys have been running that through BoomTown for quite some time. It seems that those leads are getting far more traction, having far more success than they were in the past right now. I don't know if it's just the market we're in, but maybe you could talk to that. I'm seeing that at a smaller level from Sisu's perspective, but right. But from your perspective, has that gotten a lot better this year? Should we be investing more in that?
Well, if you think about it, Brian, what you've got two primary platforms that you're going to be doing the majority of your advertising on in the digital world, and one of those is Facebook, and one of those Facebook and kind of the social platforms, and then the other one is through Google. And the reason why we have invested so heavily into optimizing for PPC on Google and other search platforms is because they're intent-based searches. So people are actually going out and searching for homes for sale or searching for an agent in a specific market area, and that was their intent when they went to Google. When you're on social media, we like to leverage social media for new lead generation as well. But we're going to heavily bias our lead generation efforts towards Google, because they are intent based. On social, that's really kind of just staying in front of the consumer, and those clicks are typically from our data, we see that they transact, but it takes longer, and they convert at a lower rate. And so,
Facebook, in other words, Facebook, I'm sitting here, I'm scrolling, and I'm just kind of looking, and maybe I have something that catches my interest, but I'm probably not an active buyer. Whereas with Google, I've actually gone in and searched for a home in a certain area or homes in that area.
That's correct. And that's what I'm talking about there, Brian, with intent based. So thank you for helping clarify that. But, it's an intent rather than an interruption. On social, it's more of an interruption, that you see in your feed and you say, that looks interesting, which is great for retargeting. And that's why we built Marketing Central around that concept of retargeting and staying up, because you can get those impressions a lot cheaper. And it's great to keep your brand in front of those consumers that you've already brought into your pipeline. So yes, we are seeing a lot more, interesting activities that are happening through the PPC lens. So with PPC, we're seeing almost a 50% increase in the amount of high interest activities that are coming out of those particular leads that are generated through that channel this year. And I don't know whether that's all pandemic related, or being able to meet the consumer where they are and offer them different ways of viewing homes, like virtual showings. But we are seeing a significant lift in the quality of PPC leads over the past several months.
Yeah. One of the things that we're most excited about our integration, Grier, is automatically being able to let all of your customers know exactly what their cost per lead, cost per closing, at the team level and at the agent level are for every one of your lead sources, so that they can actually make these intelligent decisions about where do I spend my money. Because there is a balance there. Facebook, those are cheaper leads. And so I think a lot of people might be tempted to say, hey, that's where I want to spend my money. But if you're spending 5,000 here and 5,000 here, you're getting fewer leads maybe with Google, but you're probably getting far more results. So if you're not measuring that, if you guys are not keeping track of that and not looking at that to make your decisions on where to invest your money, it's going to hurt you in 2021, because the key thing is make the decisions to invest on the things that are driving your business forward.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better, Brian. I mean, really, that's one of the most exciting things I think about this direct integration, is the fact that that we have an opportunity to really sort of close the loop, in essence, and taking it from that click all the way through to that closing, and really understanding those conversion metrics, but also really understanding the costs associated with each channel, and being able to really have that full view, that full picture of the click all the way through to the close. And so that's sort of been a holy grail for us for a long time. And we're edging our way down. And so nowadays with Success Assurance, where we're actually trying to convert them to an agent-ready conversation, we're no longer looking at cost per lead. We're really focusing more on cost per agent transfer. And so but I think the visibility that this integration with Sisu is going to give them is going to be just super enlightening, because I don't know of another combination between two software systems that are going to make it this easy to have that visibility.
Yeah, cost per close is something that not many have. And the industry, I think the holy grail that the industry has been talking about for the last decade has been, who's going to build that lead to close platform? And to try to play in the CRM world and play in something else is a very difficult task. Just being a CRM and being a leader in that space is a very difficult task. So that's one of the things we're so excited about with BoomTown, with Sisu. You now have a full lead to close platform with everything being fully integrated, communicating back and forth, having everything in BoomTown as far as all your closings, all your under contracts. And anyone you mark hot in BoomTown, having that within Sisu to start going through that transaction or contract to close process, or really, instead of contract to close, it's really appointment to close.
Right.
What's managed in Sisu. So anyway, Grier, any last advice? We have 5 minutes left. What is like the most important thing that you think team owners should be focused on? As you and I, we both work with a lot of teams. We work with, I guess we both work with some brokerages as well. What is the most important thing that our customers can be focused on Q4 to get ramped up and ready for the strongest year ever? I mean, this year has been the strongest year ever, shockingly, with everything going on. But with an 8 to 12% growth for next year, what is the most important? You've talked about a lot of things already, so maybe we've already covered it. But what is the most important thing I can do if I'm a team owner or broker owner to really make sure I drive my business forward effectively?
Absolutely. So, I think one of the things that that we're that we have the benefit of is having these high-powered teams on our platform and being able to learn from them and sort of collaborate with them on what the future is going to look like. We've got about 40% of the top 250 teams by transaction size on the Wall Street Journal, Real Trends, top 250 list that use our platform. We listen to them a lot to understand what's important. And when I think about the ones that have really just broken through and been able to go through these certainly challenging growth cycles. Growth is not easy, and one of the things that you need to understand is and I think teams generally do is that you have to provide leverage on your team. You have to be able to as things get busier and busier, you have to find ways to put the right people in the right places. And I think that's going to be the most vitally important thing going into this year is really looking at things from a leverage perspective. Should your agents be following up with hundreds of leads a month, or should they be focusing on the further down funnel conversations that they're having? Should they be doing transaction coordination, or should you have somebody on your team that's devoted to that because they're much more dialed in on attention to detail? And so those are the types of things that you need to consider as it relates to the whole entire consumer experience, because that's what's ultimately going to get you that repeat business that drives your business forward and helps you grow faster without having to spend to acquire. Those are the types of things that I think are incredibly important. And so the other thing that I see with these top agents teams is that that they've got their numbers in front of them. They understand, everybody on their team understands what they are responsible for. And I think this is where where we get tons of usage on our vitals dashboard, but really Sisu, this integration, puts it on steroids. It really helps them see the whole entire funnel. You can gamify it through adding these competitions. That is something that that is why you see a lot of the top teams in the nation adopting Sisu, is because they understand how important accountability is, and they understand how important and they understand exactly what they should be accountable to. And so, along with the leverage, helping people to understand exactly the role that they play in how the consumer gets from point A to point B is incredibly vital, and being able to give them the visibility into those things is critically important. So I got to give Sisu a lot of credit there, because you guys have done a fantastic job of providing that data layer to be able to have that sort of visibility and understanding of what's going on in their business.
Thank you, Grier. I couldn't have said it better myself. So thanks for the Sisu pitch there. But the reality is, every agent, I think a lot of team owners just bring agents in and expect them all to be the same. The reality is they don't all have the same desires. They're not all the same Like they don't have the same goals. Some people want to do 10 transactions a month and some want to do 2. And
Right.
it's all about helping them get to their goals, not your goals. If you need to get to your goals, it might mean hiring more agents.
That's right.
And it might be you can get there with your agents. But you can't expect the same consistency from all of your agents that you want to have within your team. Let's just pull out a number, 20 transactions a month, 40 transactions a month, whatever that number is. You can't expect that with 10 agents, you're going to hit that every month. It may be because they're going to go through their cycles, and understanding that is so important. And understanding for your business, how many agents do you really need to have to accomplish what you want to accomplish?
That's right. And I think that's a really good point, Brian. I mean, when we're looking at, our own business planning and trying to understand, how many sales reps we need, it's all about taking that bottoms up approach and saying, okay, all right, and it's different in real estate because you have, agents that have different desires, like you mentioned, but, taking that bottoms up approach to saying, okay, these are the goals that, that agent, these, my 5 agents have, they're different and they roll up to this particular number. And if your goal is, let's say 20 to 30% higher than what that number is, you're going to need more agents to achieve what your goals are. Right. And hopefully you have some sort of past record of their achievement based on what they put their goal at this year. So you can kind of discount, what they've said. But I think that's a really good point. And as we're talking about this business planning for 2021, these are the little tips and tricks that, that are going to help you to set yourself up for an amazing 2021, because the market's going to be there, and it's your market share to take. And if you're listening to this, I know that you guys are already ahead of the competition because you're tuning in here and investing in the strategy of your business going into 2021.
Well, Grier, thanks as always. It's always fun to sit down with you, and your wealth of knowledge. And congratulations on what you guys have done for this industry and really driving it forward. There's a lot of teams out there that we talk to that are super grateful to be a part of your organization. So, anyway, congratulations on all of your success, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Have a great day.
You too, man.